So for those of you that are unaware after everything that's happened so far, we are celebrating Youth Day. And if you don't know why we celebrate Youth Day, it's basically a day where we get to celebrate and honor youth who were brave and courageous and fought for freedom in South Africa in 1976. So on the 16th of June, youth basically marched in protest to the then government's decision to make Afrikaans the primary language of education. And as Pastor Mark explained to us last week, Afrikaans is one of the youngest languages in the world. If you don't know, in South Africa, we have 11 official languages with an additional 11 developed languages due to the number of foreign immigrants. So it's up on the screens. So in actual fact, we have 22 languages spoken in South Africa. But as you can think, the students that were protesting were quite upset about this change. And so about 20,000 of them marched to Orlando Stadium in Soweto and were unfortunately met with police brutality, which resulted in a number of deaths and countless injuries. Today, their act of resilience and bravery is considered a major catalyst for challenging apartheid and growing the desire for change in South Africa. So while preparing for my message today, God really challenged me to think about our youth and our young adults and challenges we may face in our lifetime. People are anticipating that this is going to be the most uncertain decade we have ever seen. As millennials or young adults, we've already been exposed to some influential events, such as the invention of Google. So if you are born before 1998, you are older than Google. Facebook, yes, youth, we were there when Facebook started. The 2008 recession and 9/11. While Gen Z have had to navigate online shopping, which I still don't get, the invention of YouTube, Barack Obama becoming the first black president of the US, and the start of using Uber as a means of travel. We have all had to endure a global pandemic, hence the lovely masks that you're all wearing, and life as we knew it before COVID-19 no longer exists. But we are the next generation of leaders, CEOs, doctors, scientists, problem solvers, community builders. And while we need many roles to navigate all the different changes that are going to happen in our lifetime, one that I felt important to discuss today is resilience. So that's the title of my message today, resilience. Resilience is the ability to successfully recover or adapt to difficult or challenging life experiences. One person in the Bible who we first meet in Genesis 37, who I feel went through a number of difficult life experiences, is Joseph, the son of Jacob. He is one of 12 brothers, and his story really begins at 17, where his brothers, jealous of their father's love for him, sell him into slavery to the Ishmaelites, who then took him to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar. Potiphar's wife then falsely accuses him of sexual misconduct, and he's put in prison. In prison, Joseph interprets a couple dreams, and he's not only released, but he's put in second in command just after Pharaoh. Joseph is 30 years old when he's promoted. So you see, he started at Revs, now he's here. He has to manage 7 years of food security, followed by 7 years of famine. During the years of the drought, he re-encounters his brothers and his father. He provides for them, and finally, he prophesies about the promised land. That is a lot to deal with in one lifetime, in my opinion. And that is just the overall of his life. We haven't even got into the juicy details. But something that I would like to focus on today is some characteristics of Joseph that enabled him to be resilient. Some that I feel were paramount to his ability to successfully roll with the punches, and some that we could use when faced with uncertainty. So the first characteristic was he was a dreamer. Apart from him having dreams about himself ruling over his family, which I'm sure he bragged about, hence their dislike for him, God gave him the gift of interpreting dreams. This gift helped free him when Pharaoh was having bad dreams and basically got him out of prison. And from this, he was promoted to second in charge. So be able to navigate difficult life experiences, we need to be able to dream what God sees. We need to dream so we can anticipate where God is taking us and where He is taking other people. We need to be able to dream about the possibilities we have when we walk alongside Him and the strength we have when we help others to achieve and acknowledge their dreams. We, as youth and young adults, when encountering uncertainty, some of which we've already experienced, economic crisis, what to do with our lives, what to study, a global pandemic, we must be able to dream what God dreams, to carry us through the desert into our promised land. The second characteristic is he was compassionate. Throughout Joseph's life, there is a thread of compassion. Reuben, his older brother, was possibly one of the first examples of compassion for Joseph as he convinced his other brothers not to kill Joseph before he was sold as a slave. This part of Joseph really makes me think of my older brother. And so as kids, I would be extremely mischievous. I was very, very naughty, hence why I'm in church. But my brother, from when we were very young, would basically plead with my dad not to discipline me when I'd done something wrong. He would go so far as to actually ask my dad if he could have my punishment instead. And I think that's just an incredible example of compassion. But Joseph continues to show compassion in prison when he asks Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker what troubles them, what's upsetting them, and then he interprets their dreams for them. I mean, if I were in prison wrongfully, the last thing I'm worried about is somebody else's problems. Am I right? His compassion goes so far that he actually says to his brothers in Genesis 45, verse 5, "Do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." When Jacob dies, their father, Joseph reassures his brothers again in 50 verse 20. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." I mean, how many of you, quickly pop up your hands, if sold into slavery at 17 and then spent majority of your 20s in prison, would say that to your brothers who were the ones that instigated all of that? We got one guy here because 100% my brother ain't getting none of my food if that's what he does to me. But Joseph is so concerned about his brothers' hearts and their well-being that his suffering isn't even part of the conversation. And I feel we're living in an age where showing compassion, grace, and mercy are often seen as a weakness. But I believe, which is evident not only in Joseph's life, but in the life of Jesus, that being compassionate, restoring what was broken, and doing life with others is the greatest strength. We are able to see each other. We are able to see each other for who we are and for the storms that we have and are enduring. When we are compassionate, we are able to see the good God intended for our lives and the lives of others. The third characteristic of resilience that I believe Joseph had was he was strategic. Now, this part of Joseph, I really like. And for those of you that know me, you know why. I love to have a plan. I am type A, I'm working on it. Reuben and our family know firsthand that a prime example of my strategy, my planning, is when we go on family holidays. I absolutely love to spend hours researching the area, the restaurants, the top attractions, how to get from A to B. And I've basically planned our trip's itinerary down to the travel time between things before anyone has even had a chance to say, "I'd like to go here," because I've done it already. But I do believe that Joseph was on another level because he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams for him and then immediately gave him a solution to, the 7 years of drought. He explained to him how to kind of gather food so that everybody didn't go without food. And I just feel that that is like a whole other level of strategic because he's sharing his wisdom with Pharaoh before he even knows that he's going to be promoted as second in charge. I don't think that's something that I would easily do without knowing that, there's a job at the end for me. So I know that to be resilient and to navigate the wilderness, something you've never encountered before, you'll not only need wisdom, but you'll need to be strategic. You'll need to make a plan, but also be willing to change the plan where necessary and where God asks it of you. When people ran out of money, Joseph exchanged food for their livestock. When people ran out of livestock, Joseph then exchanged their land for food. Resilience takes courage to plan ahead. We as youth and young adults, when we are faced with uncertainty, when we might not know where we're going or what it might look like, we'll have to put our trust in God, but we'll also have to use the authority that God has given us to be courageous and to step out boldly, not just trusting in His plans for us, but actually using ourselves to implement His plans for others. The last characteristic that I'd like to share about Joseph was he was faithful. Throughout all these trials, from 17 to over 30 that he had to navigate, his faith was not shaken. And the main reason Joseph was able to adapt was because he had faith in his father. Joseph was able to dream and interpret Pharaoh's dreams about the drought. He was able to anticipate God's plan, feel compassion, not just for the Egyptians, but for anyone who came in need, and strategic in preparing for a time he did not know would come or what it would look like when he did. He had no idea his family was going to come to Egypt. And what many people don't realize from this account is that he didn't just provide for his family, he provided for the nation of Israel. It was through his faithfulness in God that he was able to endure not only being in a pit, but in prison and a palace. And that actually set up the nation of Israel. Had it not been for Joseph and the calling God had placed on his life, many would have starved. We wouldn't even have heard the complaints of the Israelites for 40 years to Moses in the wilderness. It wouldn't have happened. As youth and young adults, we are not only called to be an example of faith, but we need to carry the flag for those around us. We have the honor and privilege of defining what and how to navigate the uncertainty ahead. We are the carriers of our faith, not just for this nation, but for South Africa and the world. Our faith is not only for us, but it's for the generations surrounding us. And so in closing, I would like to read the following blessing that Jacob gave to Joseph over you. And no matter your age or generation or stage of life that you feel you're in, wherever you see Joseph's name, I'd really like to encourage you to use your own. So from Genesis 49, verse 22, Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring, whose branches climb over a wall. With bitterness, archers attacked him. They shot at him with hostility. But his bow remained steady. His strong arms stayed limber because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, because of the rock of Israel, because of your father's love who helps you, because of the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the skies above, blessings of the deep springs below, blessings of the breast and womb. Your father's blessings are greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. And I just want to declare that over your life.